I really did not like that hotel, though. That hollow core exterior door with no lock on it.
I thought it was campy.
Rob loved it.
Yeah.
I warned him. I was like, Rob, you're not staying in this hotel, are you? He goes, yeah. He comes back. He goes, it was great. I loved it. What? Because that was the place where I was afraid. I was afraid. Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding Podcast, our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on houses. You're listening to Justin and Brian and Rob. Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
Please turn all your cell phones to vibrate and your computers so the sound is off, gentlemen. And
Did we mess up last episode or something?
I think I
Why the new disclaimer?
Please keep your hands and feet inside of the podcast at all times. No, nobody messed up. I was just during the intro, it was funny because all three of us pressed the button on a computer to stop the notification sound.
This is the first time I remembered.
I'm so proud of us. FHB podcast at taunton.com, finehomebuilding.com/podcast, www.google.com. All these places you should check out. Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what we can talk about.
What happened?
Right about the time people are listening to this, actually, by the time they get this, they will have already had this in their mailbox. They changed the cover of the magazine.
It's a big moment in fine homebuilding history.
It's a big moment.
Another cover change.
Yes, it's not a big departure.
Only the fourth time that's ever happened?
I'm not
fifth?
willing to put a number to it, but it's not very often.
No, has not been changed.
And this is not a drastic change. All it really is that we remove the white border that goes around the outside of the image.
Big move.
But it's a stunning difference to take away that little, what do you think that was, 3/8 of an inch?
Yeah.
I haven't put a tape on it. I get
solid 3/8.
Solid 3/8, plus or minus. Might be a whisker over. But now it's a full bleed image. That's what we call it in the biz, full bleed. And you'll notice that we really, your old pal Justin here snuck a pretty pro-level photo onto that cover, too, with Myron jacking up a drywall lift.
Yeah.
We're going to scare away those newsstand buyers.
Oh, yeah, that's the goal.
Right.
We did
also worth mentioning that our curmudgeon of an art director also doesn't like the cover.
Yeah.
Doesn't like it.
Well, he doesn't like change. Come on.
Well, actually, his argument is that the white border stands out on the newsstand.
I believe he said it looks distinguished.
Distinguished. Well, I agree.
I agree.
But, Brian doesn't like the full bleed.
Well, so that was the last time that you'll ever see that cover. It's a collector's item. We're reverting back immediately.
No, and
based on zero feedback and zero data.
We're joking, and it's a pretty minor change, but the coming issues will have even more tweaks to the insides of the magazine with some new things that we're cooking up. So if you guys are not subscribing and you're just listening to the podcast, I highly encourage you to check out the magazine. It's like what we do here times 10. I mean, it's just information wall to wall. It's actually vetted and organized and thought through before it's said.
Really?
Unlike our show. And
much of the time.
yeah, and if you don't subscribe, you should go now to the website and either sign up for an online membership or hop on the magazine. We don't make that shameless plug too often, but it's worth subscribing to.
We should make it more.
Nah, we don't want the show to become a promotional thing.
That's all we should do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell them about what's in the magazine.
I think I was supposed to follow up on the fit of my face frame for the bathroom vanity.
Yeah, you're only following up because it fit great. If it perfectly. If it didn't fit, you wouldn't have followed up.
It fit perfectly.
How did you do it?
I pushed it into place perfectly.
Yeah, but did you have to scribe anything?
Nope.
Yeah, so the walls were just flat. You didn't work any magic. You just cut pieces straight on the table saw.
I just framed the walls that flat.
Yeah. Well, every remodeler's like, well, great.
I back beveled the face frame to kind of ease that first kind of, you just got to get it into place. But I didn't fully back bevel it because I don't want like that really sharp edge, which would just kind of cut into the drywall. And
So what do you mean you didn't fully? You left a little flat spot?
Yeah, a little flat spot.
How big? Smaller or larger than the removed white border from the cover?
About the same size. I think it was actually shooting for that dimension.
Were you?
Yeah.
You used that as
I use that as the guide.
I use that often in my shop.
Yeah. Yeah, and it had to be pushed into place, no doubt. I mean, with some effort, but
you didn't scrape the wall up.
Not really. A little bit. I'll have to touch up.
But no drywall damage. You didn't
No.
It's nasty when you catch the paper and then it tears.
No. Nope.
Wow. He's a real pro.
None of that.
Real pro, folks. Are you going to
Worked
get a
out.
picture for us?
I think I took a picture.
I know,
you
but
did.
can you get it to Jeff so he can?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Jeff.
And then we could open the debate up to the listeners, the same debate that we had at lunchtime as to whether bathroom vanities should have a full back or not.
Oh, yes. That was a big
good.
debate.
Yeah.
So I will catch people up.
This one does not.
Rob took a picture and he sent it to the two of us here, Brian and I, and it was his vanity, and he was bragging about his scribe, but it had no doors on yet.
I didn't brag about the scribe.
You were bragging about the scribe.
What did I say? I said fit perfectly.
Yeah, that's bragging. And noticed that the cabinet has no back. And that launched into it has a little...
It has
a
back, but then it
has
has very
rails.
large.
Has top and bottom rails.
Yeah, it has
outside.
rails.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yep.
Rails. Keep it square.
Yes.
But no back.
Correct.
Now, how did you detail... I have to look back at the photo, but where the plumbing comes through the drywall, what is that looking like? I mean, are we...
Like nothing yet.
Are we tight? Or do we have escutcheons going on there?
They're tight.
So you're planning on dressing that up and making that look nice.
I might put some discussions on there.
All right. Brian's argument?
I'm with Rob. I've
No
built
back.
a few vanities, and I've gone no back. I've typically just put a top rail that you can't even really you never even really see it, so it just simply looks like no back. And I just take a little bit of take a moment to make sure that it's square before I screw it to the wall.
Are you screwing to the sides in your situation, Rob? Because you're between two walls and then there's a back. Are you screwing through the sides of the cabinet into the framing, or are you screwing through the back into
Through the
framing?
back.
So you have to have at least something to screw through.
Yeah. And then it's screwed to the sub base.
Now, would you feel the same about having no back if, let's say, that back wall was way out of plumb and you had to shim the cabinet so that there was a gap between the back rail of your faux back there and the drywall? Would you still feel the same way?
If there's a
Like
gap,
if they're at the cabinet back is always going to be dead plumb once you install it. But what if the wall's not? What if the wall has a big bow to it or something? So that now there's a chance that stuff can go back there between the cabinet and the wall. Still feel the same way?
it's a good question.
Would you put a little cap back there, like on a wainscot cap?
Potentially.
Little back band?
Yeah. Might just hide it.
See?
I might just hide it.
They just hide it.
That now you're working too hard.
So that nothing can fall back there. Well, you're not working harder than it is to locate and drill for your plumbing and get those really in the right places. And what looks worse than no back is when those holes are not well aligned.
I gotta tell you, that is one of the worst tasks.
It is.
In the world
Yeah.
of carpentry, second only to installing shoe molding, is probably figuring out and drilling those holes.
Yes.
But you've got a slick little
So
little detail.
Yeah, on a recent one that I did for a vanity, and I can't remember what brought this on. I'm trying to remember the situation. I feel like there was more pipes than usual coming through the back of the vanity. Like maybe there was a couple extra stub out. I don't remember. There was something that made me go, or maybe it was set up and it wasn't even, and something that made me go, I don't want to just drill holes because I mean, in a perfect world, you get the two supplies like dead level to each other, and that waste line is right in the center between them. It's all symmetrical looking, and you can make it look nice. If it's a little bit off, then you're just drilling holes in random places. And so I said, well, I'm going to figure out what is the size of the group of stuff that I need to get around. Then I made that even a little bit bigger, cut a rectangle out of the back of the vanity, and before I installed it, I cut another piece. I think I used poplar or plywood, and I made like a little lipped insert, like put like a little rabbit on it, and then I beveled the edge so it looked like a half overlay drawer front. And I fit it to the hole before I installed the. I made sure it fit in the hole before I installed the vanity. Then I installed the vanity. Didn't have to worry about, holding it out from the wall so that it's touching those stub outs and then shimming it and trying to transfer the marks and then sliding it in and getting the shims back in place. I just installed it, had plenty of wiggle room around that opening for the mechanicals. And then I came back and I measured from the sides of that opening I cut to each pipe.
Right.
Then I transferred that to this little insert plate I made, drilled those holes. And also one of the perks of this is you screw that up,
You can make another one.
you just make another one.
Couldn't you actually just hold that plate to the stub outs and actually just mark them?
Not if they're sticking way into the cabinet.
Right.
You could hold it on top and mark.
Before you
Is that what you're saying?
Before you even put the cabinet in place, couldn't you just hold that up to the stub outs from behind? You just
No, because you don't know where the cabinet's going to land.
based upon it, it's like that cabinet gets shimmed, it might adjust where
Yeah.
that plate
right,
needs
but
to go.
in that case, there's no reason why not to just oversize that plate, is there?
No, because it fits into.
Oh, it's flush.
It's not flush. It's lipped. It's got a rabbit.
He wants to air seal that transition.
No, because I wanted
weather
it to.
stripped?
But you could do it. What you're saying, yes, except it might not.
Be as fancy as Justin's.
It might not be. It might not end up.
It's just locked in there for a tight joint.
Well, it might not end up level to the bottom of the cabinet or the sides of it.
That's true too.
You might end up the piece you held on the wall is coming at a visually different angle. It makes it look sloppy.
Take that, bro.
Well, but I mean, if you're making it out of a piece of plywood or something, and you're beveling the edge, you're dressing it up, making it nice. You know, there's less pressure to get it right. If you want, you know, if you're not confident in your abilities, it still looks good when it's done. You can actually get tighter than you could, because a lot of times you have to make those holes a little bigger
so you can wiggle
just
that
to
thing
get
in
it
there,
in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you're just sliding a plate
you have a-
straight
do
on,
you have a
can be
picture of
tight.
this?
No, I don't have it. I might be able to get a picture. Probably not though.
Nobody cares in a vanity.
Yeah.
Exactly. Paint the back.
Just kidding.
Paint the wall back there. No back. Put it in. No one's getting down there and checking that stuff out anyway. Save all this effort for things that people actually see.
I think what you guys are missing out on is the fact that you're doing this at your own houses and not for clients. Because as soon as you set that vanity,
They're gonna be where's the back?
they're gonna walk into the room to see what you did that day and go, "Oh, pretty gnarly job on those holes.
I think
this looks pretty sloppy."
I think I agree with Justin. Yeah, I'm definitely. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, there's a certain, like, when you eliminate most of the back, it looks very purposeful. If you, let's say, had a cluster of pipes and then just cut like a random oval shaped and put it in, they're going to go, this guy's a hack.
Right. Well, that's why I eliminate the whole back and
Right.
paint the wall.
Right. If you're confident that you can.
And you can, if the drywall doesn't look good around the stub outs, you could always use some sort of escutcheon.
yeah.
I like my method.
All right.
What do you think about my method, Brian? You don't like it?
I bet it looks nice. No doubt. I'm not saying
like
it
it.
doesn't look nice. I bet it looks nice.
I would like to applaud Justin for his thought. I think that's a
I
pretty.
love the thought.
That's a pretty clever
and I
solution.
think
guys,
it probably
thanks.
looks nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen a picture.
if somebody else installed it, it would look nice probably. But I just pretend I'm a carpenter. You know how it is. This is all fake news right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Justin did love the color of the paint job on the face frame. I got props for that.
I did. It's a
Yeah.
nice gray color.
It's a nice gray. It's a nice pewter.
And Rob never misses an
can
opportunity
count on Rob.
to brag about the fact that he used Ben More Advance.
I'll never skip an opportunity. Ben More Advanced. It's awesome. High gloss.
Do it with the gloss.
I went with the gloss. Yeah.
You'll never skip an opportunity to paint something gray in your house either.
That is very true. It's only gray.
Now-
Only shades of gray in the Yagid household.
Now, as Brian said, that nice cabinet. It's going to hold a lot of Comet and toilet paper.
Right.
All right. You want to do some questions?
Let's do it.
All right. Spencer writes, "Hey guys, I've been listening since episode 1. The podcast has been a great motivator and resource for someone new to the industry. Can't thank you guys enough. I'm going to be building a standalone wet sauna this summer, and I had a few questions about air sealing. Most of the details I've seen have to do with interior saunas, which utilize a foil vapor barrier and a fan for moisture. But given that this is detached, I was wondering what your thoughts are on a best assembly. It'll be just outside of Toronto, measure 8x8, cedar on the interior and exterior, mineral wool insulation, and have a metal roof with overhangs. Heat will be either wood or electric. One idea is to leave it fully open, fitting the mineral wool tight and just attaching the siding and interior finishes to the studs. This is how I assume most old world saunas were built and still stand. The other would be air sealing like an interior sauna, but he's worried about condensation on the interior face of the vapor barrier. Any ideas would be greatly appreciated. 115 degree interior air, negative 15 degree outside
What's
air.
the delta T on that?
130
100 degrees.
No, 130.
Oh, right. 130. Minus 15. Yeah. Wow.
Editors try to do math.
This episode.
So 130 degree temperature difference, so not that big of a deal.
little bit of a swing.
Saunas are. I'm psyched that we got this question
It's a wet sauna.
like,
What's that mean?
I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure.
I guess
Except that maybe you.
We need more information.
Except that maybe when you pour the water over the
over the rocks.
heating element, the
But
rocks.
what's a dry sauna?
Better be
Just
rocks
a hot
in there.
room?
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just heated up, like super heated.
Yeah.
Who would want to go in there? You got to have some steam in there. First of all, I love this. I love that we got this question. I would be psyched if somebody asked me to build a sauna because I feel like I would totally geek out on like how to make the assembly work. And I feel like you'd have a real steep learning curve building saunas too, because think about like that door and the extreme temperature difference between the inside and the outside, and warping and you know, swelling and all that stuff you got to deal with. I think it'd be really hard.
It would be difficult.
I would like to point out a couple of things that I think are very smart about his approach. One, we know about cedar. Cedar is pretty much the traditional choice for this. Rot resistant, smells awesome when you're in there. Enough said. There's probably some other benefits, whatever. Mineral wool, awesome. Won't absorb any moisture.
Vapor open, right?
Vapor open, yep. Psyched about that. Heat will be either wood or electric. I don't think we need to really comment on that. I don't.
Really?
Do you? You want to? He's not really asking about that.
Better be in with wood. just saying.
It's going to be awfully hard to control the temperature.
Who cares?
I want a sauna.
It's part of it. It's part of the whole thing.
I want a sauna.
Stoke the stove.
The little wood stove in there, Brian.
Cool.
Okay.
So I guess the real thing comes down to, like you said, air sealing, vapor barriers, and air sealing. I mean,
So would you be?
what he's wondering essentially is, should I leave this thing wide open and just let it breathe?
Let it dry.
Well, let it breathe. Yeah, let it dry. How is that not the same thing? In a sauna.
So should he air seal? Should he be allowing like diffusion, or should he be allowing air to be?
If this was in your house, if it was an interior one, absolutely you would want to air seal. You need to have a fully. Jeff, can you keep it down, please? You need to keep a very tight separation between your extremely moist interior air and the rest of your cooler house, because you're going to have crazy condensation and mold problems and all that stuff. If it's totally outside, so I'm going to lose a little bit of steam to the outdoors. What's the big deal? I mean, if it was like a grossly leaky spot, like a hole, then it's going to start to freeze and it's going to start to form icicles and drip down. But I mean, what are we talking about? How many hours a week is this thing going to get used?
Could be a daily
I mean,
thing.
if he's running a sauna, like he's starting a resort in Toronto, then maybe we need to think about this more. But I mean, this guy's essentially building a sauna. I mean, he's building a sauna for himself. That's what it sounds like.
That's correct.
I would frame those walls, put mineral wool in there, slap cedar on both sides,
And call it done.
move on with my life.
And you think that
Let the sweating begin.
you'd have no problem getting it up to temperature
Yeah. How about that?
I don't think
in
so.
those extreme cold.
I'd
If you
air-
really want
I'd
to
air
use it
seal,
in
but
those
I'd keep your
extremely
vapor
cold
open.
days, I think I'm with Rob.
So you'd use something like what? What would you use?
Mm.
Because it's got to be
pretty hot.
It's got to be. I mean, well, we're not really worried about this thing heating up. I don't think we're worried about it like cooling down, right? I mean, it's the like
I don't
when
know.
you
Winter in Toronto, I'd be maybe a little bit concerned of it heating up if I got.
He's got an 8x8 room with a wood stove in it. This thing could be made out of, punched tin, and it's going to heat up.
Yeah. I'd still air seal. Basic stuff. Weather strip the door. Blah blah blah.
Well,
Yeah, just some
Yeah.
basic stuff.
Some stuff on the plates.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't think he needs to go for like passive house standards on the air sealing.
Right.
Just kind of make sure that it's not like
Leaky.
leaking, crazy leaky, like
Yeah.
so that whoever's sitting by the door doesn't feel a draft. You're in a sauna, you don't want to feel a draft, that kind of thing.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
going to push you a little farther. What does the package look like, the air sealing package? I understand weather stripping around the door.
Is there gonna be a window? Is there a window in a sauna?
I don't think so.
There could be. A lot of saunas have windows.
Okay. I don't know. Foam around the windows. Foam around the rough opening of the door. Jam. Weather
You mean like
sealed door.
bottom plate?
Yeah. Put some adhesive or some kind of sealant or tape, whatever you want to do, to seal that transition between the floor frame and the walls.
You haven't framing sheeting on the outside and like a zip system with tape seams.
The
And
floor might actually be the trickiest thing. What's he doing with the floor? He didn't say anything about the floor.
He actually did. He said,
What did he say?
let's see, would there have to be a drain in the floor for when the moist 115-degree air meets the negative 15-degree outside
I'm not
air?
worried about a drain. I'm talking about how to keep the floor from being cold all the time.
Yeah.
How's he going to insulate the floor?
Probably mineral wool.
Frost protected shallow foundation.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I want to know.
What's this thing going on? What is that mineral wool sitting on?
You guys are punting this like champs. Is there going to be sheathing on the outside?
Yeah, I'm gonna sheathe it.
Then how are you going to deal with vapor at the sheathing?
Scratch that.
Yeah, exactly. Cedar
Well,
on
it's gonna
both
be the
sides,
same
mineral
spread.
wool in the middle.
Cedar on the outside. That's
There's going to
fancy.
be.
You got to do it though.
How could there possibly? How could you do anything except for?
Brian just
Shut down.
brain aneurysm.
You gotta come watch the video. Brian just overloaded his circuits.
Yeah.
Stopped.
Should it be vapor open? And here's the question: that if a wet sauna, so you're talking moist inside. You're talking this thing's going to be
Yeah.
wet, and there's going to
It's a wet sauna.
and
I'm talking
yeah.
about steam. There's gonna be steam in there.
Yeah,
Occasionally.
and that's going to move from hot to cold. So it's
Yeah,
gonna be
you're worried
moving
about
out.
vapor drive.
So somewhere, so there's going to be condensation somewhere, and if it's not, if you don't have sheathed it, it's going to be on the back of your siding.
Exactly. And then it's all gonna dry.
Yes. Correct. Whoa. We got a lot of options here.
I mean, the other option is to define your air barrier, your vapor barrier, right on the inside.
It's not
And
going to
then-
dry though because it's going to freeze in this climate. It's
Would
going
you-
to be frozen all winter long.
I didn't even finish.
I wasn't ready for you to move on.
Superior. Well, this is my other option: superior air barrier and a vapor barrier right on the inside face underneath that interior layer of cedar. An ass ton of insulation, and that's it. You're done. Or leave it all totally open and let it dry. This doesn't sound like he's worried about energy here. I mean, if it's a wood stove in Toronto, like you said, it doesn't need to be a passive house.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be super tight.
Right.
It's going to work fine, leaky.
These
So-
Swedish people have been doing this for millennia.
Yeah, I would not overthink this. I think you're going to spend a lot more money than you need to, and I think it has a potential for leading you down unforeseen consequences.
Yeah.
Just find a Swede and ask them how they do it.
What kind of cedar siding
There's
did you
not
put
a
on
lot
them?
of moisture in this arrangement that he's talking about.
Well, he might put like a little pot of one of those
There's not a lot
pots
of
with a
moisture.
little.
He called it a wet sauna.
Yeah.
A wet sauna, but that really only describes the fact that you're going to put a little spoonful of water on some hot rocks occasionally.
Listen.
Otherwise, it's going to be very dry. It's not a steam room.
Right, but
It's a burst of steam,
yeah,
but mostly it's going to be dry as a bone in there.
that's true. It's a good point. It's going to be super dry, except for
Very,
your sweat.
very dry. Let's move on.
Well, I don't feel like I can move on until I know what your answer is, because I got Brian on my team now. So
Sorry, I was looking up synonyms. I don't know what you guys had just discussed for the past
great.
2 minutes. So.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Sorry, Sean. Was it Sean?
His name's Spencer. First of all,
Sorry,
But Sean,
Sorry twice, Spencer.
but if there's a Sean out there that had to listen to that whole debate,
Sorry to
we're
you
sorry.
too.
We're sorry to you too.
I'm building a sauna. This one's a little interesting in the fact that we don't have a first name. We have a last name and a first initial. So N. Weaver writes, my question is simple. We will decide that. How to cover the exterior insulation below our framing. Our drawing calls for cementitious panel, but I'm not so sure about its long-term durability. As per James Hardy tech support, quote, nothing we make should be within 6 inches of grade. My thought goes to stucco, which rock wool does offer some detail for, but that's for an entire wall covering. I'm just trying to cover about 8 inches. How about we run our 1 1/4 inch rock wool to grade or just below, and then just install some metal lath on tapcons. Metal lath held on with tapcons and stainless fender washers. Then just stucco right to it. What do you guys think?
So he's talking about the covering the foundation below.
Yeah, he sort of skipped part of this question, which is
Yeah.
essentially he has exterior insulation and he wants to know
how to
cover it.
How to bring it down from the wall to grade.
right. You're covering
Yeah.
it with siding for most of the house, but what
Right.
about at the foundation? It's a common question.
Yeah.
What he's describing is almost exactly what Mike Gurton did on our first pro home. What was that, 2015, Rob?
Yeah.
Mike can,
2016.
we can get the link up on the show notes page at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. But there's a video, there's drawn details of this. He essentially did rock wool exterior rigid foam, a rigid rock wool,
Yep.
furring strips. Then he put wire mesh right on the furring strips, and then he did
I don't know if he did that.
coat of. Did he put? He might have put felt paper and then wire mesh, and then he used fake stone.
Right, cultured stone,
But
I believe.
I mean, it's the same deal. You could use stucco,
Yeah.
and that's a totally workable detail. So you could do that, or you could.
I've also heard surface bonding cement. Have you heard of that usage? Like, yeah.
Yep.
I've thought about this recently because, whatever, you're always looking for projects to do in your house. So one of them is a bump out on my house to extend.
I've been hearing about this bump out for a decade.
I was like, all right, how am I going to deal that foundation? And I think I've seen it like on more modern homes, but they've actually used just bent up metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like black or something like that. Could be all right, depending on the style of the home.
I've used cement board before and not
Really?
had any problems with it. I know one complaint about it is that in
would
cold
absorb.
climates it absorbs moisture and then it can freeze.
And bust apart.
But you know,
But you never had a callback?
stucco could do the same thing, right? I mean, anything that's that's a reservoir
Porous,
cladding
yeah.
can soak up water and
Right.
freeze. So I don't know why people have picked on this in particular. I guess because it's in contact with the ground. But I don't know where this guy is, or lady, Nancy Weaver, or Neil Weaver, whoever you are. I don't know what part of the country. If you're in a super cold climate, maybe it's a concern. But my first thought here would be to avoid the. I like Mike's assembly because if you have to stucco no matter what, if you're going to put a cement board and you're going to put a stucco over it, you know, wire mesh seems like a safer bet because then you don't have to worry about the freezing. If people are really finding that that's a problem, I've never experienced that. Questions, comments, concerns?
We will put a link to
I already said that.
Which
The
one?
video and the article.
Yeah, but also our colleagues over at Green Building Advisor have a very detailed thread on all of the options on how to detail this. I think Martin has 10 options to consider.
It's filed under the tab of how to overthink everything.
That's what we do.
I know, it's what we do here too.
Yep.
I thought it would be kind of fun today to do a favorite segment of
Yeah, I was thinking about this.
stories from the road. Worst photo shoot each of us has ever been on. For people who don't
You really
know,
want to do this?
Brian's got the best one.
for those people who don't know, the job here at the magazine is not just this podcast. We also, the articles that we work on, we travel all around the country and we find builders and designers who have the projects, and we go out there and we get the story. It's essentially like a photojournalist. We take photos of the process, we come back and we make the articles. So we get to travel around the country and see a lot of builders. Or if you want to think about that different way, we have to travel around the country and deal with a lot of different kinds of builders. So naturally, there's some horror stories after 10, 15 years of doing this. Pretty much just chose this segment so Brian would tell us the story of his.
Yeah, because I know the story, and perhaps Brian.
So our favorite segment is
Tell
Brian
it.
telling the story.
But I don't have anything that is as awkward and uncomfortable as that one, let's say. I mean, I've got stories of like challenging shoots, like crawling under, having to shoot a story in a dark crawl space with no lights on how to do a seismic retrofit on a house with, you call them pony walls out there? I don't know. In San Francisco, but that was just like dirty, and there was no room. Like literally, it was like spelunking, and trying to like document the process of putting hold down hardware to a footing.
Yeah, those being in short attics, being in crawl spaces, those shoots are.
Yeah.
For just the nature of the work is like.
Yeah, but
There's also the shoots that you show up on, and it's just either they're completely not prepared, or like the place is a complete disaster. Like when I was the design editor, I remember going to a California project, showing up the night before the shoot, and we were supposed to shoot both photos and video, and like the house, it looked like a bomb went off.
yeah,
And it was like, holy smokes, we flew across the country, and we're not going to be able to like pull this off. Somehow, some way, the architect came at like 8 o'clock at night, and I think they were just there all night long.
I don't
And when we got
understand.
there 8 o'clock the next morning, it was spotless and like shoot ready. But it is all one of those like moments where you're like, holy smokes, we just blew thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
and we're going to come back with a problem.
yeah. I mean, most of my horror stories are just freezing on shoots. Just like, like at least when you're building, you get to move around.
Exactly.
You're standing there just freezing. But
Yeah, the batteries kind of die quickly in cameras too when it's that cold.
both cameras and in us humans. But Brian,
I had quite a trip.
yeah,
I'm not going to give a lot of details here, in terms of what the work was or where I was, because there's a person involved, and I'm not here to slander anyone.
He might be just like, what's the problem?
He might be just like, what's the problem?
he's going to do a fist pump when he hears the story.
But
Like,
this
damn right.
This photo, this shoot, this trip. I mean, if it could have been awkward and uncomfortable and problematic, it was. So not only did I fly pretty far, but then I also drove pretty far to get to where I was going to meet the craftsperson who I was going to work with.
Think he'll slip up and give us a clue as to who the guy is in the middle of this, Rob?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know if he can hold it together for the whole
I'm
story.
going to do what I can. So when I get there and I show up at the hotel that was recommended to me by the person who I was going to visit, and this was the first sign of trouble. Of all the places I've gone to and of all the places I've stayed, this was the only place where I actually didn't want to get in the bed. I was like, I couldn't believe.
You just picture you standing there saying, nope, not going to do it.
I couldn't. It was really
Sleep in the
hard.
rental car.
Like, what was so bad about it?
The hotel was dark and dreary and
Was it a motel or a hotel?
I think it was a motel.
Did it have
I'm
hollow?
trying to remember. This is a long time ago.
Was it a motel with hollow exterior
pretty
doors?
new at the
Hollow core exterior doors?
Yeah, because I stayed in one of those.
Stayed in one of those.
Yeah, it was like, you guys have been. We've all been in some rough places. This was rough. This hotel was rough. So So I deal with that. I'm in the hotel. Get up the next day and go to the contributors' shop.
Nicely played.
And I go into the shop, and like Rob said, first thing I notice, we can't shoot here. Like it is such a disaster. There is stuff. It's unorganized. There's stuff everywhere, and so. But I'm out. I'm there, and we're gonna try to get this article. And so I set to work getting the shop. I say, we have to get the shop cleaned up. We have to. The backgrounds, as we tell all of our authors, the background of the photos can't be confusing. It can't be distracting. We got to get these clear, illustrative photographs. So we go to work cleaning it up. And we're cleaning everything. We're moving stuff around. It's taking all morning to get the shop in the shape that we want it to be in. This contributor happens to smoke quite a bit. And in fact, this contributor smokes to the degree that there's a lit cigarette at every station in his shop. So when he walks over to the miter saw, there's a cigarette there for him to pick up. When he walks to the table saw, whatever it is, whatever station he needs to go to, there's a cigarette.
Why doesn't he just carry the cigarette with him?
I'm not sure, Josh.
You didn't ask that?
I did not ask that.
I wouldn't ask either.
Right.
So after we get the shop tidied up, and we're almost ready to go.
Hold on a second. Didn't we skip one part of the story?
Not yet. We'll get there.
The going out for lunch part?
We haven't gotten there
All
yet.
right.
As we haven't gotten to lunch yet.
Oh.
So it's still the morning. We get the shop mostly tidied up. We're getting ready to get to work, and one of these, the ashtrays, which is a coffee cup with coffee and cigarette butts in the bottom of it, one of the ashtrays spills over on a table, and the contributor takes out a taping knife, scoops up the stuff, and throws it towards a garbage can. It splashes all over the wall behind the miter stand station. So now the wall behind the miter stand has coffee and cigarette butts slowly dripping down it. So
He's like, all right, ready to shoot.
ready to shoot. Here we go. Anyway, so we get to work. We get to work that morning, and we start to get a bunch of stuff done. And the photos, everything's going fine. The person does know what he's doing when it comes to the work that he or she is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting a whole bunch of photos. Finally, it's like, okay, let's break and go to lunch. This was supposed to be a 2-day shoot. It's something that was supposed to get done and get installed while I'm there in 2 days. It's something that you can do in that time frame. And so we go out to lunch, and
What vehicle do you take?
I believe
He's got a van,
he
doesn't
drove
he?
and he's got a van.
Yeah, he does.
He's got a van.
No windows on that thing?
To make a long story short, or to make lunch, to condense the experience of lunch, by the end of lunch, he's drunk. Like drunk. So now not only am I nervous about the use of power tools in the afternoon, but I know that no work's going to get done. So in the afternoon, we get back to the shop, and I just take over. I just start working because I know exactly what we have to get done by the time I'm leaving so that we can get the finished photos and get out of there. Now, mind you, one thing I didn't mention yet is that the person is as messy as the shop. So in every photo, it's please tuck your shirt in. Please wipe that sawdust off. Please put your cigarette down. Please straighten your hair. It's just constant questions. And we don't ask for much. We want job site and shop legitimacy in the magazine. We don't, but we do ask for things not to be distracting.
But he went and didn't he freshen up at one point?
We're going to get there.
I mean, it pretty much boils down to like, be wearing a shirt and like.
And no cigarettes, put some safety glasses on.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
That's what we ask.
Yeah. So anyway, I proceed to build things during the afternoon and slide the contributor into photos when I need them. Well, he's trying to get some stuff done, but not much is happening.
But how do you phrase that? Like, I'm just going to help you out, or like?
Yeah, can I help you? Can I do some of this?
He's like, sure.
And we've all been on job sites where they've said, do this.
I framed walls.
Oh yeah, Cliff Ham put me right to work. Go make 8 more of these braces. Didn't even ask. Do you want to help? But anyway, so I'm working off. So we finished that day, and we're kind of on schedule. And so we'll meet for this place for dinner tonight. We'll meet at this place for dinner tonight. A sports bar in town. A sports bar. So
I thought that was lunch. That's a different chat.
I thought it was lunch
man.
too.
No, this is different.
I feel like I haven't even heard this whole story.
So I walk into the sports bar, and from the door I can see the bar, and I can see my friend sitting at the bar.
Okay.
So I walk straight in the door, and I walk up to the bar, and I sit down, and when we're looking at sports screens in front of us with sports on them, like you do at a sports bar, and we order some drinks, and we order some food, and all that is going along just kind of fine. I wouldn't say that this is high quality food, but we're doing okay. We're getting through dinner, and at some point during this dinner, I for the first time I turn around and I realize that not even 10 feet away from me is a stage with strippers on it.
So he took you to a strip club for dinner.
So he took me to a strip club for dinner. It is this tiny little place, and I realized this, and I mean maybe not great food and not a great strip club display either. So I keep focused
just
on
the thought of like, editors in town, treat them
nice,
treat them well.
Yes. So we get through dinner. I get back to my hotel. I get in the bed. I get to sleep. Wake up the next morning. This is a long story. We're eating up a lot of the podcast.
That's good.
Great.
I hope it's entertaining.
The best thing that's been in 100 podcasts.
I hope
It's the
it's
best podcast we've ever done.
So the next day we get back to the shop, continue to work. I really want to go home. Most shoots, I like to travel. I like going on shoots. And most shoots, I do not feel like this. But I really want to go home, and I really want to get home on time. And that afternoon, so we finish up making what we're making in the shop. It happens. And all I need is one photo of the thing being put in place.
The final shot.
We're not even doing the installation. We're just putting into place for the final shot. It was going to be the opener of the story. And so we go into the place, we bring the stuff in, I'm setting up the camera and the lights and all this and that, and it's time. Everything is perfect. I've already snapped a few shots to make sure the lighting's good. The thing is in place. All I need is now my friend to walk into the photo frame and put his hands on the thing.
Yep.
That's all I need. And he comes out of the bathroom. His hair, he went in there and he completely wet his hair down and slicked it back. He finally got the message that I needed him to look neat, and he took it to the 10th degree.
He comes out dripping wet with like water all over his shirt or something, right?
Yes, completely wet. And so I thought, this is dynamite. Like, get in there, buddy. I snapped the photo, wet hair and all, pack all my stuff and run out the door.
Oh,
and
man, that's awesome.
I will not say what article it was, but I will say that it did make the magazine.
People are gonna be looking for that.
Made it
that,
work.
That slicked back wet hair.
Yep.
Is this the article? No, it's not it.
No, well,
Brian-
we'll see
Brian
another
is-
spread.
I just need to know, everybody.
Seriously confused.
Oh, yes, that's it.
Really?
And if look at,
Let me see.
go one page down.
Because it doesn't
You
look
can't show
that
the readers.
bad.
No, go.
I won't show.
Go one page down, and you'll notice something, right?
Yeah.
Let me see that page.
Well, no, we don't have to go.
Just let me see that page.
Awesome.
Oh. Yeah, it doesn't look that bad.
No, it's like you look at this and you never would know.
Great job, Brian.
Even
That's a true editor right there.
it's a true art department working
Yeah.
around the imagery.
Yeah, I got nothing like that.
No, that was like I said, I
Yeah.
did that segment just so Brian would tell that
Good
story.
tee up. Good job. Good job.
All right. It's not fooling around, guys. Let's get back.
I
Let's
got
be
home.
serious.
I got home.
You survived.
I got home.
All right.
We should do best photo shoots.
We'll put that up on the show notes page.
Best photo shoot, the one that you flew to Hawaii to shoot the kitchen, to shoot for photos?
First Victoria, British Columbia, on my way to Hawaii.
Mine was Sandpoint, Idaho. I think was my favorite place to go.
Orcas Island, Washington.
Yeah. What was the worst place though? I mean, I love Myron, but Broad Albin, New York, it's a pretty tough place.
I dig Broad Albin, New York.
Actually, it was kind of nice. It had a nice local vibe there.
I shot a project in Ohio.
I really did not like that hotel, though. That hollow core exterior door with no lock on it.
I thought it was campy.
Rob loved it.
Yeah.
I warned him. I was like, Rob, you're not staying in this hotel, are you? He goes, yeah. And he comes back. He goes, it was great. I loved it. What? Because that was the place where I was afraid. I was afraid. I was afraid. Rob, I think, Rob, you witnessed a murder in the next room over one time, didn't you?
Yeah, it was in San Antonio, Texas, and kind of a highway hotel situation right there on the off ramp. And yeah, I was fairly convinced that someone was murdered in the room next to me in the middle of the night. Still cry when I think about it.
One time as a joke in let's see, where were we? We were in Maine, and it was a snowstorm, and we were driving. It was me and our video guy and a freelance video guy. Our video director, Colin, he got out. We pulled over so he could go to the bathroom on the side of the road, and we thought it'd be funny to leave him there. So we started driving again. We let this joke go on for, I don't even think it was a full minute. Turned around and couldn't find him again. It was like a whiteout snowstorm. Now we're freaking out. But we eventually got him back. I don't even know how.
Where was he?
I don't know.
That's
He would have had to be laying in a ditch on the side. It was like nothing there but fields and snow. And somehow we lost him.
That's great.
I remember driving around in this huge minivan. Anyway, all right. Ryan writes, I come to you with this gem of innovation that I found at the local library. It's called Energy Alternatives by Time Life Books and was published in 1982. Hope you guys get a good laugh out of it. Reading that book was yet another reminder of how fast our understanding changes in this field. So we got a couple of, Ryan sent in a couple of snapshots of the inside of the book, and they're not, it's not like we have digital scans, so we're seeing photos of a book, so it's a little hard to see some of the details, but, I mean, some of the stuff in there.
It's awesome.
There was this window, and Jeff, by the way, knows this book, and apparently he read it and owns it. Do you own it, Jeff?
My dad had it.
Yeah. And I had sent this note to Steve Basic and Martin Holliday to
weigh in on
giants in the building science community, and Martin was laughing at it because he knew the book and he knew the guy, and the guy went on to do some other stuff after that. Steve was upset about it because he felt he took exception with the statement about a reminder of how fast everything understanding changes in this field, and he was making the point, which I think is correct, and I don't think Ryan didn't mean it this way, but that the understanding really hasn't changed. We've known how all this science works for a long time. It's just that there's always like this little fringe of people who have these wacky ideas of what to do, such as filling in between window panes with polystyrene beads. So
fill tubes and collection tubes.
How does this work? So it blows in with air at the end at nightfall.
I think at the top.
And then when the sunlight comes out, it sucks the beads back out of the window pane again?
Correct.
So you're insulating it when you're not using it, essentially.
Yeah, but it's also I think a site-built window.
Well, I would assume it would have to be.
Because there's a 2.5-inch gap between the panes. Nice. Yeah.
Oh, that one never caught on. I wonder why. But
I wonder why.
What was the one with the big tubes? Like there's water tubes in front of a window or something?
For thermal mass, yeah, you could fill these. They look like 8 foot tall cylindrical tubes that you fill with water and put them, in a sunny spot.
So they warm up during the day.
So they warm up and then they slowly release that heat.
This is a big thing, Jeff. You probably remember it better than us, but they had like a lot of
like Jeff's old.
Yeah, I am.
Yes,
filling up your basement with big bladders of water and that kind of stuff too, right? Like,
yeah. Building brick walls inside the windows.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like
70s and 80s were wild.
Yeah. It's like a hobbyist thing, It's like a
And
little bit of engineering, a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of building science. Like, what kind of oddball things and whirly gigs could I introduce into my house to reduce energy?
Oil going from 39 cents a gallon to you can't buy it for love or money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So build those water tanks.
70s and 80s was a weird time. Not just because of the way I'm making
George Michael.
Not just because of George Michael in the "Wake Me Up Before You Go" video, although that is exceptional. I would also like to point out the illustration style in this book is quintessential
Oh yeah.
for that decade. I love every image in that book. It's fantastic.
Is this a Trom wall?
You guys got to go to the website and see some of this stuff. maybe we can throw up a link to the Amazon book. People can buy it.
Yeah, let's get.
Let's try and drive those sales up.
Let's try to pump those sales for sure.
Yeah, I think it's in its 8th edition. I'm not
Oh,
sure
no.
when it's up.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We
I
should-
got a first edition, so it's not.
We should protest.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. Thomas writes, I have a question about flashing. All right, we're going to end this one. This is a tricky one, guys. I have a covered breezeway between my house and my garage. The facing walls of the house and garage are not parallel to each other. The breezeway roof connects to the side walls of both. Since the walls are not parallel, but the standing seams on the roof are what they are, how do I flash this roof? If metal flashing, does it need to be the same metal as the standing seam roof? And how should the metal roof be finished beneath the flashing where it intersects the house and garage walls? And then he says, lastly, how do I direct the water away from the side walls to the lower end of the breezeway roof? So I'm going to answer the easy ones first. Directing water away from the sidewalls, you want to use something called a kick-out diverter or a kick-out flashing. And you can buy those, or you can make them. And we have an article on making them. I think it was on building skills or something.
Just laughing because I made my own kick-out flashing by literally just taking a piece of coil stock and just bending it, shoving it up behind the flashing and the lower shingle, and it works.
All
fine.
you're trying to do is like when the
I'm
water...
diverting water into the gutter instead of...
Yeah, when the water's running
Yeah.
down your roof along a sidewall, you don't want it to skip past the gutter and splash onto your wall. You want it to hit this little L turn, and it shoots the water sideways
And
into your gutter.
In a simplified way, for people who can't visualize this, the last piece of step flashing extends and then bends in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
And
much.
it's becoming pretty standard. I mean, I'm seeing it on houses all over the place
Yeah.
now, so it's cool to see that it's finally
I've been
becoming
noticing
more
it, too.
standard.
Yeah.
So that's how you get out of that, and that will just be, like Brian said, it'll become part of your flashing, or it tucks underneath
Yeah.
your roofing or whatever. More than likely, whoever you're buying the standing seam roof from is going to have that piece to offer. But I thought it was an interesting question because picture a standing seam roof where those ribs on the seams on the roofing are going to run exactly perpendicular to your eave line, and that's great for one building. If it's coming off perpendicular to one face of one building, but if it's landing on an angle on the other one, how do you detail those seams? And I don't think it's any different than if you have a valley in your roof. You would just have a wide, flat piece of flashing that tucks up underneath your sidewall, and then those ribs are just cut wherever they intersect, just like it would in a valley. Those pieces are still going to go in the same direction, but they're just going to be cut short wherever they come into contact with that valley flashing.
Right.
So maybe that's hard to imagine, but if you look up pictures of flashing a valley in a standing seam roof, I would just do it that way, I would think.
Sounds about right. Brian?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's another banner show, fellas.
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I was entertained once again by Brian's story.
Me too. I can hear it every day.
Every day. Yeah.
All right. Tune in next week. We got more good stuff for you. We're also going to have some special episodes coming up. We're a little more of a Sean Van Dyke. We're going to be doing some business topics with him. So stay tuned for that. A couple of episodes coming your way shortly, in addition to the regular ones. So bonus podcasts. Remember, sign up for the magazine. Go to finehomebuilding.com/podcast. Check out the show notes. And give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That really helps us bump up our rating. And if we bump up our rating, then more people find out about us, which is good. All right, guys.
I like that you asked for a 5-star rating.
Yo, don't rate us a 2-star.
I mean,
That's
feel
good.
free.
You didn't say just rate us on iTunes. You said
I want some
give
honest.
us a
I want some
5-star.
honest feedback, but yeah, 5-star rating if you
Honest
like it.
feedback with a 5-star rating.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want in
Pick
the
5
comments.
stars and then say what you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, people have given us lower ratings, and that's fine. We don't shy away from criticism, and we also probably will not change what we're doing based on it. So. All right, we'll see y'all next week. In the meantime, keep craft alive and happy building.